Oh, rats. Hey, that's kind of objectionable, isn't it? Well, we have an objectionable topic to talk about today that's going on here in the Treasure Valley. What's that all about? Stick around, let's find out next. Hey everybody, Dave Edwards, Treasure Valley Dave here. You know your great real estate agent by your side when it comes time to buy a home, sell a home, or relocate to the Treasure Valley. And one of the things that you might have been doing in your research is you may have heard that we have a little rat problem here in the Treasure Valley. Not everywhere, but in some places. And one of those places is Eagle. And we're going to get some words from Treasure Valley Mareen at the end of this because guess what? She lives in Eagle and she's got some experience with what's going on with the rat problem right here in the Treasure Valley. So let's get into more about what is going on here. We're going to talk about some of the local news reports. We're going to talk about how the legislature got involved and then how they didn't and then why, what's going on, and then what we can do about it. And then we're going to wrap this up with some special words from Treasure Valley Mareen. So let's kind of get to this. So here's a story from our local Channel 6 news people, and they're pretty decent. I like their coverage.
In Eagle and across the Treasure Valley continue to deal with a growing problem of rats and rodents. I'm neighborhood reporter Allie Tripke talking with neighbors in Eagle about what they're seeing and why pest control experts recommend tools like these to trap pests.
And it was like an explosion of rats into the air.
Homeowners in Eagle are pushing back against beyond damaging yards and homes. Hull says rats pose a public health risk.
Most of your rats are going to carry some sort of diseases, especially the two major ones is going to be hantavirus, which carries flu-like symptoms, leptospirosis, which attacks the liver.
And it's not just an Eagle problem. Boise Mayor Laura McLean even posted tips at the start of winter on how to keep rats out as rodent population grows alongside the valley.
So that's some pretty good information there. Pretty good introduction to what's going on. It does sound, kind of blah. Certainly don't want to be involved with all that. So how long has this been going on? It's been, we've known about it for a little while. Let's get some reporting here from our friends over at Boise Dev and see what they said. This is from last October. Let's see, rat tax. Ada County considers pressing legislature for help. And then the legislature did get involved. So over the past year, reports on social media and to government agencies of rats in the Treasure Valley are spiking. What first began as sightings of invasive Norway rats and smaller, more agile roof rats likely coming into Eagle last fall in shipping containers from out of state has now spread to reports of rats in Boise, Garden City, and other cities in Ada County. Well, that's not good going on, but despite the rising calls to government officials and pest control companies about stubborn rats, there isn't much local officials can do because rats aren't listed anywhere in the state code to be declared a nuisance. I guess like noxious weeds and things like that. The Idaho legislature would need to step in to allow local governments to manage the problem themselves or provide financial resources to boost local eradication efforts. So was that going to happen? So exactly what that proposed legislation would look like, and if the eradication program would be funded and managed by the state or local level hasn't been nailed down. So like I said, that was last October, and things have moved a little bit. And one of the things that happened was that there was this bill, Senate, that's for Idaho Senate, 1271, and it was going to do, kind of address this, and they were going to start out with a fact-finding mission. They were looking at spending some amount of money on just seeing where the rats are in the Treasure Valley. They were going to use GIS system, which is kind of a mapping and tracking system to figure out where things are. So nothing was going to get done to the rats in the first year. They were just going to be kind of mapping where they are. And, on the one hand, yeah, that makes sense because you got to know where they are to know where they're going and where they came from. And I'm sure all that would, come in handy. But so this legislation to do that? Well, let's get back into this. This is from the IPMA, the Idaho Pest Management Association. So what did they do? They played a role in this legislation, and they're pretty happy about it. It's a win for the IPMA, Idaho Pest Management Association members. So we are pleased to share that Senate bill, the Rodents of Unusual Size Act, was defeated on March 17th on the House floor by a vote of 38 to 32. This did pass the Senate quite easily. And then through a coordinated effort and strong engagement, it ultimately did not pass the House, which means it didn't pass. The IPMA took a leadership role throughout this process. We developed formal opposition. So the Pest Management Association opposed any kind of move by the state government. Well, but they didn't do it just by themselves. We also worked to engage partners beyond our industry. At our instigation, food producers of Idaho joined in strong opposition, adding meaningful weight to the conversation. I wonder if that's the same thing as lobbying, legislators. The concerns we raised, cost, government expansion, and impact on private industry, clearly resonated and were central to the outcome. The result did not happen by accident. It was a direct result of the IPMA members stepping up and engaging at the right time. And just to kind of finish this up, the IPMA will continue to fight for the rights of the pest control industry in Idaho, particularly on issues surrounding rat control and the role of private enterprise. So what was that all about? Well, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, I have that libertarian small L streak in me that want less government, less spending and stuff like that, less impact on private industry. But is that always the best move? I mean, if you're going to go to war with some other country, is it like Ada County, Boise goes to war, and then if Nampa feels like it, they're going to go in, and maybe Boise won't, or Eagle will, and it's like sometimes you need a more coordinated effort for things that impact more than just the local area. Just kind of thinking out loud there. Let's see what some other thoughts are on this. So this was a story from the pest control technology people, and they had an opinion piece here from Cascade Pest Control co-founder and director Kurt Trafitz. I think that's how it's going to go. All righty. He said Idaho's failed Rodent of Unusual Size Act was flawed in design. A couple things that he points out, and remember, he's part of the industry. For the last few years, folks in around Boise and Eagle have been alarmed and outraged by the seemingly sudden outbreak of rats. However, the housing expansion has replaced miles of farmland with houses and businesses, and between folks watering their lawns and providing all other food and harborage a rat could love, all the harborage a rat could love, sorry, rats finally took hold. Wow, let's move on down here. Because residents hadn't dealt with rats before, and because they thrived like some invasion residents, I think we probably need some commas in there. I'm not sure. Residents leaned on local representatives to do something. Oh my, won't somebody think of the children? And Idaho House Bill 1271, nicknamed Rodents of Unusual Size Act, was put forward. Actually, it was a Senate bill. Remember that? It was an S 1271. I guess details don't matter when you're trying to make a larger point. Just a thought. The bill was a desperate attempt to address the new and quickly growing rat problem, and the Idaho Pest Management Associations, the people we talked about a little bit ago, made a clear and successful effort to assert that private enterprise, the pest control professionals, should not be circumvented in efforts to control the rats. Well, So I guess that just kind of reiterates what we were talking about just a moment ago, in that the industry wants to protect the job of eradicating rats. So let's check out our friends over here at Channel 2 and see what they said about this. Idaho lawmakers reject the bill to track rat infestation spreading from Eagle to Boise. There's that little fella. I won't say he's the cutest thing I ever seen. So Channel 2 saying here that homeowners in the Treasure Valley dealing with rat infestations will not get state help this year after lawmakers rejected a bill aimed at tracking and coordinating a response to the growing problem. Lawmakers voted down the Senate Bill 1271, which would have directed the Idaho Department of Agriculture to map infestations and help coordinate a response as sightings spread from Eagle into Boise. Well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Anything else down here? Yes. Supporters said the bill would have been a first step to keep a small problem from spreading into southern Idaho farmland. Opponents argued that rats are a local issue and not something the state should take care of. So there we are. It's kind of back to what we were talking about a little while ago. So on the one hand, you got industry saying it's a local problem that we only want pest control professionals to take care of. On the other hand, you had the legislators at the behest of, I guess, concerned citizens saying, hey, let's look into this to see where the rats are and then let us help coordinate the response that's going to be done to it. Now, the government doesn't have, I would assume they're going to contract out, pest control professionals to come and do the job. But apparently, is it just me or is it the little conspiratorial thing? I mean, sure, it's not November 63 or something, but I guess maybe for a pest control professionals to ensure they're always needed and always have work, you're always going to need pests and rats and people up in arms about it. I don't know. Why? What's the other reason that they would do that? Because they're all libertarians and they don't want the government involved with anything? But I bet they still pay their taxes because they're scared to death the government's going to come and shut them down for not paying their taxes. So I guess that's only half baked. So let's talk about that local response. So I checked out all the cities in the Treasure Valley. Caldwell, Middleton, Star, Eagle, Meridian, Nampa, and only one city. Oh, and I also checked out Southwest District Health, which is the district health district that Canyon County's in, and I also checked out Central District Health, which is the health district that Ada County's in, which is Boise and Eagle. Nothing, not a peep. You do a word search on rat or rodent, nothing. And I did the same search on all the other cities in the Treasure Valley, and nothing, except for Boise. So kudos to Boise. What did they say? Well, they just have some good tips on what you can do to, maybe combat or reduce the chances of you having rat problems. So I thought, that's helpful. But for that local response, it's like, that's the only thing I saw. Except, sure you can go on pest control websites and they'll be glad to help you out with that. So I thought, let's get a little bit more information on this. And then I came across this news story. This was just out just a few hours ago. So let's check this out.
Representative Birch, thanks so much for joining us. First, can you describe the impact of this current rat population on your constituents?
Well, thank you for having me here. I appreciate it, Matt. This is an emerging infestation. These rats are not indigenous to Idaho. They are huge Norway rats. They can be as long as 18 inches long. They are devouring gardens. They are getting into crawl spaces, into attics. They're also getting into cars and machinery that are parked outdoors. And the concern is right now it's more in the urban areas, but there's a lot of waterways that these rats are really they're great swimmers, and they spread through the waterways in particular. And the bigger, longer-term concern is when they start getting into the agricultural fields that surround Boise and its suburbs.
You had an idea in the state legislature to address this problem proactively. Can you explain your proposal and its disposition?
Yes. So the bill that we put together, and by the way, I co-sponsored this with a Republican colleague on the Senate side, and the bill would have chartered or tasked the State Department of Agriculture to add these two species of rats, Norway rats and roof rats, to the invasive species list, and then develop a plan in conjunction with, or in cooperation and collaboration with state and local governments, as well as the private sector. And the first step that this bill only addressed was really measuring, monitoring, trying to determine the scope and the spread and the rate of spread of these rats. This bill actually didn't spend any money. It really was just of any significant amount. It was just really basically getting good data to make good decisions.
Why did it not become law?
Well, there are a couple of reasons, three in particular. One was that the Pest Management Association in Idaho was objected to the bill. I think they felt that they could handle this on their own. Maybe they thought that that it might maybe reduce revenue. I don't know.
Wait a second. You had to fight the special interest group, Big Pest Control. You were just trying to you were just trying to get rid of the rats, but it became a turf war over who was going to get paid to get rid of the rats?
I don't know. I see, to me, it's a win-win, because part of the bill is to educate the public. And what would happen is when you start proactively telling the public the rats are coming, the phone's going to ring off the hook for these pest management companies. But in addition, they play an important role in this because they have the expertise on how to deal with this type of an infestation. Neither the state nor local government has that expertise. And so what would happen is the state would likely contract with the private sector. And this is going on in Idaho right now with an invasive species called quagga mussels, which have is infestation of those on the Snake River. And that's a huge economic problem because they get into machinery and all sorts of equipment and could cause millions of dollars of damage. Well, the State Department of Agriculture takes the lead on that, and they've let out contracts to the private sector. So that was one of the concerns. The private sector objected. The second is there were arguments on the floor of the House, and I should say it passed the Senate with only 3 no votes, but it failed on the floor of the House on a vote of 32 to 38. And the arguments were more ideological. We shouldn't grow government. This should be handled locally. Well, you can't abate an invasive species by hoping that random homeowners will, somehow call the, private sector to help get rid of the rats at their house. You got to take a holistic view to deal with.
Wow. So there you have it. Did that guy make some sense there? It's like you can't really combat infestation that covers an entire city or 2 cities that by hoping that random homeowners will call up the pest control companies, and that the pest control companies obviously probably go with the cheapest one, and maybe they're not as good as the more expensive ones, or, and then I'm just going to wait for both my neighbors to call and I'm not going to worry about it. Or it kind of makes sense that the government would put together a panel and find out where they are and then kind of coordinate the different cities and their responses and the different things that homeowners can do. That would be my guess. But then what do I know? I'm not an expert, right? Science. I'm not Mr. Fauci of the rat world, am I? Talking about experts, she's not an expert in rats, but she does have some experience with them. I'm talking, of course, about Treasure Valley Mareen. So let's talk with her for a second. Hey, everybody. So we've talked a lot about rats going on in the Treasure Valley, and we have Mareen, who lives in Eagle and has a little bit of experience. And I wanted to get her honest take on what's going on. And well, let's get right to it. Hi, Mareen.
Hi.
Hey, so you live in Eagle.
Yes.
You've heard about this rat problem probably on the news and whatever.
I did, and it started, I don't know, probably 3 years ago.
Okay.
Does that sound about right? I think 3 years ago we had maybe 2. I don't know. I read it on the news or somewhere. I heard it on the news that Eagle has a problem. I had no clue about it. Didn't see anything.
Okay.
Guess what? Still don't really see anything.
But there's always a but.
So, yes, there's an increase in rats. It's for sure something we haven't seen. And I talked to one of my neighbors, or I talked to a lot of my neighbors, and see what they're seeing. And it's just like, it's the pets that notice the rats.
Oh.
So that's for sure something. So my neighbor was like, had some wood pile somewhere, and his dog was right there. He lifted up the wood pile, and the dog like,
whoa.
and that rat was gone.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. So are they running around? I think what people are imagining is that you have rats everywhere.
Right.
That's not what it is.
Okay.
So I have never seen a rat during the day anywhere on my property or on the street. Nothing.
Okay.
My cat is a very nice, good hunter. She occasionally brings me a nice gift. So
Okay.
that's the part that is not pleasant.
So like over the last 3 years, how many times has your cat been gifting you?
Too many.
Oh.
Yes.
We're talking like once a week?
It depends. So winter, I don't think there was any, we didn't have any issues. But spring right now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's on house arrest right now.
She's on probation.
Yes. But have I seen anything when we are like, so daytime, absolutely nothing. Even if we are out at night, I haven't seen them. So I don't know where she is getting them from.
She might be getting them from the neighbors.
Oh, probably. So I wish I had a little camera on her to see where she's getting them. But, so are they there? Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Alrighty.
Yes.
Has your city come out and said you guys need to keep an eye on this or to do anything?
So it's homeowners' responsibility at this point. So we were all advised, and it's not just Eagle, as we all know.
Right.
They are pretty busy, those animals, so they spread very quickly. Cut back your trees, make sure that the trees not touching your roof.
Very good point.
No trashy areas in your backyard where they can hide.
Can I leave the dog food outside for the dogs?
I have my cat food out, yes.
Oh, okay.
I have not seen them come to that, no.
Well, your
I
cats
have not.
probably wouldn't let them.
Yeah, probably not.
Kind of mean. Huh. So if you were looking at buying a place in the Treasure Valley, would you not go to Eagle because of this big scary rat problem?
No, I would still buy another property in Eagle if I could, yes.
Okay.
I would still buy there.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, so worst case scenario is you might call up a pest control company?
Yeah. So I'm on my monthly service, and when they come, they just ask, Ann, how's everything going? And I do have the bait
Okay.
thing in my yard.
And then they check that? And...
They check that. And that's about it. Cross baits. We have some baits just in the cross bait just to make sure that they're not getting too comfortable somewhere. And that's, yeah.
So with the service, then you don't have to worry about it because they're going to worry about it? Unless the cat brings you one.
Yeah, it's like I said, I would have never seen one if my cat wouldn't be such a wonderful cat.
Oh, she's a hunter. Very nice. Well, appreciate that. Any last words on the rat front?
Don't worry, we are not talking about the African hunter virus rats.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you see Monty Python?
Oh, and they were, by the way, so the ones that she brings in, they're small.
Okay.
I mean, there's a long tail to it, but
I've seen on the news.
they're small.
Okay.
Like I said, it's also a small, tiny cat.
So you've seen.
Do we have a picture of that?
Oh yeah, we just saw some from those newscasts,
Okay.
and they're big and scary.
No. I got to show you a picture of my cat. She
Okay.
doesn't look like a hunter, so.
We're gonna put that picture in right here. Oh, very nice. But
Okay.
I was gonna say Monty Python. Have you ever seen any of their movies? Because there's that one scene they go, "Bring out your dead, bring out your dead."
Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead!
Here's one.
Ninepence.
I'm not dead.
What?
Nothing. Here's your ninepence. I'm not dead.
There.
Just because of the Black Death was going.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have that going on.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
Very-
feel that panic. No.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for your on the spot reporting. Appreciate that. And we'll get you guys back to your regularly scheduled programming. Wow. So what'd you think of that? Mareen's pretty sharp. She's no nonsense. There's a rat living in her place without paying rent. It's out of there. Am I right? So I don't know. We haven't heard anything about rats in Nampa. I heard one story about one rat in Caldwell. I'm not sure. And, maybe the Treasure Valley is still not infested too terribly bad. I tell you what, we don't have. We don't have homeless. We don't have the crackhead zombies in the middle of the street. We don't have the panhandlers. We don't have the dope shops. We don't have those. So maybe Idaho's still a pretty good place, even with some of the flaws. Now, if we could just get this little problem figured out, and probably one of the big things for that is when you get up here and people are already up here, let's get involved. Let's let our representatives know, hey, this is what we want to happen. So do it now. Public servant, you work for us. Do it. Anyway, if you'd like me to do something for you, for instance, tell you about how great it is to live here, maybe help you find just the perfect house, answer your questions about what the weather's like here, driving in the snow, if we ever get snow, reach out, give us a holler, text, email, I'll be glad to help you. And until next time, we shall see you on the next video.